3.
You suck.
We are live.
We never, I mean, like, we can't even count on a 5 count, a 3 count, nothing. It's just going to dump us into a live hangout whenever it feels like it.
Yes.
Deal with it.
I know, right? Welcome back, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. This is season 2 of the weekly, and the whole cast and crew. Well, not necessarily the whole cast and crew, but your major players are back. First off, we have Mr. Warren Bowman there drinking some. I don't know, is that soda pop? Was that?
It's cran raspberry ocean spray, also known as crack.
Okay. Yes, so he's drinking some cran ocean spray. Thanks for joining. And next up is one and only Somegadgetguy. How's it going, man?
I'm sick as a dog. Let's do this.
All right. Well, hopefully you get better. Warren, is that a new chair I see you sitting on?
Yep, I got a new IKEA chair yesterday.
Is it comfortable?
It's comfortable. The story of this is awesome. So I went, you ever been to IKEA before?
Yes, I think we have.
I went for the first time last week when I had to pick up some stuff, and I was like, went by myself, and I'm never coming by myself here ever again. And I didn't like walk through this like, oh my god, I hate this. It's like the devil, like just walking through to get to where the hell you need to get to. But anyways, I was originally gonna get this chair, and it was to be the other one. It was going to be like $200 to buy the chair. So I was like, you know what, I'll spend that. Meanwhile, they got me caught in with the damn cart buying crap I need while walking through here, and I'm like, the bill's just adding up, you sons of, just walking through, and then I get down. I was like, we find the aisle. You get to the where the self-air service area is.
Yeah.
Finally get down to the aisle, and I'm like, all right, let's find it here. And then I go, look, there's as is. There's this chair right there in the as-is section already built, and it was just the showroom display model and this was like the non-leather one, and it was like $100 cheaper.
Nice.
And they had two of them there, and I was like, well, I know what we're getting. This wheels car right over.
That's good stuff.
And I'm like,
all right,
Bill Simmons and a Celtics pick.
All right, let's get the show on the road. Do we have any uselessness for the week? Anything?
I don't think we've got anything.
Yeah, all right.
It's too early in the year.
Let's do this. Let's do this. If someone can drop a uselessness into the Q&A or into a comment on the video, then we'll do uselessness if we like it. If it's a good enough uselessness, we'll do uselessness at the end of the episode.
Yes. Okay, that sounds good. And Joseph Hampton Jr. says, "Welcome back, 2015, back in style."
Booyah, boy!
Yes, thank you very much, man. All right, so we kick things off with Microsoft and Windows 10. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff. Microsoft announced that their Windows 10 event on Wednesday. It was like a 2.5-hour event.
Oh my god, it's so long.
Yeah, but like we said, so myself and Warren, we did a Windows 10 chat, so most likely we'll let Warren start off with his thoughts there. But, it was a good 2 hours and 30 minutes of quality stuff, I will say, compared to some other people's press conferences. Just saying. Throwing that one out there. But there's a lot of stuff announced. We had Cortana on desktops. We had a Spartan browser. We had the new Windows 10 features. You can actually download the new preview now. It's available.
Doing that right now as we speak.
Yeah. Or if you're already running the previous build, you can go ahead and update that your build. You can install it on your PC, your laptop, as well as your Surface. I'm still thinking if I want to do that. I'm like, but we'll see. 'Cause I want to try out the continuum mode.
I'm doing it on a virtual machine.
And then also they announced things with Xbox and a whole bunch of stuff. So, starting off with you, Warren, what are your thoughts from Microsoft's announcement of Windows 10?
It's pretty good. Like they kind of announced the important things. They jazzed up as much as they could about features in the operating system, which really could be explained in bullet points in a one-pager. That can just tell us everything, and we can basically get excited off of that. So they did a good job of at least making you excited about honestly really boring things that they were talking about. Really outside of the continuum, which was very interesting. The ubiquitous OS where one OS works on all, which is more developers be excited for, I think, more so than users would be, because that allows them to make one app and it just works on any platform that Windows 10 is supported on. I think the most exciting things that they really talked about in terms of just Windows 10 itself was really the Xbox feature and being able to stream Xbox One games on any Windows 10 device. And that's probably the most exciting thing I think they talked about out of everything. And everything else, I think maybe the biggest thing as far as a computing standpoint would probably be adding Cortana to the desktop PCs. That gives it a little bit more of a... It kind of does what Google now is trying to do, but it's giving you a little more personalization with it and more control and kind of how that kind of works. But overall, I think it was a pretty good press conference and what they kind of mentioned. We can get into the holograms and the lenses and things like that, but that's
we'll get to HoloLens. Don't worry. This is just
that's just mostly unfinished stuff right now. That's just kind of we'll have to wait and see on. But as far as Windows 10 is concerned, it's kind of it's going to be an interesting operating system when it comes out. They did a good job of making what really, truthfully, they could have just did all of this 2 months later at Build and talk about it and bore. Well, the developers wouldn't be bored, but everybody else would be, and at least jazz it up and make it somewhat interesting.
Okay. Thoughts on that, Juan?
No, it's again, we talked about this for a while after the actual keynote, after the press conference went up, and I think the big thing, the big takeaway for me, outside of all of the individual announcements that I thought were forward, we saw UI updates, we saw the first looks of Windows 10 on a smartphone, so we could actually see what smaller screen strategy was going to look like. But again, it keeps coming back for me to that point of Microsoft, from their reorganization, which started years ago, especially once Ballmer was on his way out and Nadella was on his way in as CEO, that we're finally seeing a company execute this reorganization, this restructuring, so that these teams are starting to work together. They're not. I don't think they're completely there yet. A ship as big as Microsoft takes a long time to change course like that, but we're starting to see a little of that synergy at Microsoft, and I think it's starting to pay off. And then hopefully that means we'll get some really cool stuff coming into 2015, 2016.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think, kind of to what you were saying, Warren, where, some of the things were bullet points. I actually like the fact that they jazzed it because, the whole thing about, continuation of the OS, from a phone to a tablet might seem trivial. I think to an extent where they want to build that message into consumers' mindsets eventually, that you're getting the same experience, even though you might not really notice it until you start using it. It's kind of like remember with OneDrive, when they first were building that message with OneDrive, where we're like, okay, yeah, it kind of syncs with everything, and now we go like OneDrive is really, really good because it's just the way the features are in OneDrive are the same way. It's bullet points. You really can just stay there and forget it. But it kind of just goes and builds with it. So I like that aspect of what they were doing in terms of Windows 10 features. Like we mentioned earlier, it's something where yes, they were simple, they were small. The big thing I actually liked was the fact that they cleaned up the settings and the control center all in one. Like it's now cleaned up, both, especially on mobile, because we know how like Windows Phone settings is just all over the place. They just keep adding stuff and it's not categorized properly. So I like that. It's similar,
well, especially with the Lumia team too, because the Lumia team loves sticking everything in that settings protocol too. So you end up with multiples of like, this is your battery settings, and then this is your battery saver settings.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was good to see they cleaned that up, and also on the PC side, because when we moved to Windows 8.1, it was like you have your settings, in Metro, you still have your control center, So it was nice that's cleared up altogether. But overall, I think they were good announcements, and it really put Microsoft forward. And I think I have a uselessness, but we'll continue next on to HoloLens. Your thoughts on Microsoft's holographic?
There's some pretty big bunny ear air quotes you got going on there for
because I spent like 30 minutes arguing with Sam that yes, I like the name HoloLens. Even though
I want to hear what Warren has to say. We already talked about this.
Yes. So Warren, your thoughts on your thoughts on the name, and then your thoughts on HoloLens itself.
So the thoughts on the name HoloLens or the holographics for their augmented reality. So,
yeah, both.
Okay. The name is fine. It's something that people know. I don't know what people are complaining about. If people are complaining about that, I think it's a fine name. I think it describes what's in front of you because it's a lot easier to say that than augmented reality, which nobody understands what augmented reality is. So it's easy to use words like virtual reality, VR, holograms. Easy names for that. They just decided to use holograms instead of using the name VR. It just separates themselves differently. Does it really matter? No. It's just it's all the same technology in a sense, but that's fine. The HoloLens, until I get to try it, I can't say much on it, other than it looks pretty cool. It seems like they're very ambitious on what they want to do, and I have a feeling that whatever they're going to do is be a much more complete product from a software in sense than many of the other competitors are going to be when they actually put theirs out. Because everybody has things right now, and trust me, how many VR headsets did you guys test at CES? Like, how many? Probably more than you can count on your hands. They're all nice. They all have these cool demos, but we don't really have anything that says this is, finished, or this is what, the premier thing is. And I think when it comes down to it, I have a lot of faith in Microsoft, and whatever they're going to do is going to be, this is it. Here's our final product. Here's what you can do with these things. Here's the software build, and and this is the user interaction. These are the things you can do. These are the things that you can add through Windows 10 to make it more interactive with you. These are the things that you can play with your Xbox on to add to those things. And here's a complete way about going about it. So I think it's interesting, but I'm just like, I want to test it myself because we've tested so many VR headsets before. I really want to see what these are before I really make a judgment on it.
Okay. So you heard Warren. He's cool with the name.
So no, I mean, it's not like I'm as angry as Sam was. Sam was really upset because this isn't really holography. Holography is when you have sort of a freestanding hologram out in space, in a real space, and that this is augmented reality. And so I kind of got a little twitchy about, especially in the way that they presented it during the press conference, because this was the longest part of the press conference. And it took 20 minutes just to explain this one dude's fascination with holograms, only to then deliver an augmented reality headset. So that's kind of what got me a little twitchy. Was this guy was like, well, and it's the magic, and it's this, and it's the unicorns, and the fairy dust, and the gargoyle blood that we had to harvest from on high, and that allows us to see holograms in space in front of us. And now here's some augmented reality glasses, and you're like, oh, that's not what you said. So that's why I got a little twitchy, and that's why Sam got super lit up about the name on this. But I just thought it was interesting that, with everything that we've seen over the last 2 years, with companies coming back to embrace virtual reality, glasses or goggles that block out the world around you to immerse you within a completely artificial or fictional world, or one that's been sort of captured from some other place. Like you can do 3D and wraparound video. Sam heard his name and he finally decided to join us. His ears must have been burning.
There we go.
In ways that we never got the delivery of any kind of augmented reality on products like Google Glass, that's where Microsoft sided. So they sided not with virtual reality. They're not going to block you off. I mean, even down, and I mentioned this in our chat, even down to the audio design on HoloLens. And I think this is one of the most important points that people keep overlooking because of the visuals. But the audio design does not block your ears on HoloLens. They have a series of speakers that give you sort of spatial awareness with the audio that you're interacting with and whatever you're using, but your ears are still exposed to the world immediately around you. So this is very, very much augmented reality. And so I think that's what's kind of exciting for me is you start to be able to play with things like in a game, the idea that you're not doing Minecraft on your computer screen, you're doing Minecraft all over your living room. I mean, imagine playing with your kids or playing with your friends in some type of co-op mode, and you can go anywhere within this house, and it's going to dock it, and it's going to clip it, and it's going to lock everything down. And at the same time, you can also do things like, this is what impressed my wife the most, was it's not that you just have a floating window playing Netflix that follows your eyes wherever you go. It's that you say, hey, on my window blinds, dock Netflix there. And then when you look away, Netflix stays there, and Netflix is only in your field of view when you pan over it. I mean, things like that are really going to open up a whole. I think are going to open up a whole new world of how apps and services are delivered, and hopefully we can get to that point where we can get a similar product in just a regular pair of sunglasses or regular pair of eyeglasses. But that to me was what was most exciting about HoloLens.
Okay, Sam, thanks for joining us. It seems
Can you guys
that.
hear me? That's the first thing. Can you guys hear me?
Can you speak up and can you crank your volume?
This is gonna be the same issue over and over.
You need to stop doing the NPR voice, man. Just stop it. This is not All Things Considered.
Well, I mean, Sam, if it's the same issue over and over, don't you think we might have figured it out by now?
Well, the problem doesn't seem to be the headset. It seems to be
Let's go to 11.
Pro handles audio.
No, why don't you crank up?
The same setup works
Things go to 11.
on my PC. So you guys need to
Go to 11.
Poor Sam needs to go to 11 mode.
Go to 11.
But this one goes to 11.
Okay,
But what he's saying is right. It's like there's a setting you need to change within Windows Sound so that it doesn't automatically move the volume up and down.
Up and down, yeah. Okay, while Sam is tuning his audio, I kind of
lighting.
No, he's giving us mood lighting over there.
It's dark as hell in New York right now.
Yeah, it's not that dark here, but while that's going on, my own little uselessness comes from some articles from Engadget and The Verge. Immediately after Microsoft made its announcements, and even through its announcement that Engadget put up an article, I didn't really read it. I just looked at the heading, of course, which is like very clickbaity. Is Apple's not cool anymore? That's like in between all this postings from Microsoft, and I'm going. First of all, why are you putting this right now? And second, yeah, exactly. But second, is it now that you just realized that Apple hasn't done anything fresh in the last 2.5 years?
Go a little further back.
You know, let's just call it. I'll just call it 2.5. Let's put it that way. And then The Verge posted a similar article: "Is Microsoft is cool again? Is it cool to love Microsoft again?" And clickbait article.
Well, that at least because Nadella did say that. I think at the end of his press conference, I think he did say that. So I could give them a little bit of benefit of doubt on making that title that way. But I understand what you're clearly saying here, and it's just them. It's Microsoft cool again. They've been cool for a while. They had their little downs, but they've been cool for a while. But I think the whole thing is it's like telling people it's okay to be a fanboy, and I don't really necessarily like that they're saying that. It's like being an Apple fanboy. It's cool to be a fan of Apple.
Well, they need to be on the cutting edge of the fanboy movement, so that when the Microsoft fanboys are as vocal as the Apple fanboys, they can click and flame bait those fanboys just as much as they do the Apple fanboys.
That is very true. You gotta keep your business rolling, right?
Right.
Set up the custom base as they move forward, so they can go. Yeah, that's very true. Joseph says Juan had to take it there with Sam.
The only point was, I think within that conversation, you could still have called it HoloLens or holographic or hologram, and then said the words augmented reality. And I think those tiers of audiences would have been savvy enough, to understand what that means.
I agree with you there to a certain point, but I also think that I think
you don't name them augmented reality goggles because then your consumer base isn't going to know what to do with that. But I think enough of the people in that room and enough of the people that were watching that live stream would have understood that HoloLens is built on an augmented reality platform technology. That was my main point, is that I just wanted to hear those words after this dude, and I can't remember this guy's name, but
I just call him Pierre Gasson.
But he rambled on for so long about and it's this, and I'm so passionate about that, and this is magic, and it was like, I didn't need to hear all that. I just needed you to show me someone building a quadcopter in real time out in space in front of me.
Yeah, that is very true. So anyway, once Sam gets back, he can give us his thoughts. I think he's trying to fix stuff in the audio, but Yeah, I think Microsoft gave us something pretty good overall to see. So any other thoughts before we move on to next topic?
Nah, Microsoft has enough love from us already.
Okay, all right, cool. Moving on to more stuff since MWC is around the corner. A lot of leaks and rumors for the latest, flagship smartphones of the year. And HTC's Hima or the M9, whichever name you want to call it, has been leaking like tap water out there. There's lots of photos and images and all that. Specs for the device. Actually, let me just get a photo for you guys while I'm.
Now, to be fair, what I've been hearing is that this isn't obviously finalized hardware and that they're using M8 shells to demo M9 hardware.
I saw a leaked image that had a button at the bottom. Which, yeah, that one was kind of. This is from the images I have now from Fandroid, which I'll share in a second. But I saw one. I can't find that anymore. I was like, when did HTC decide to put a button there?
I mean, one, if you're gonna have all that bottom bezel space, maybe that's not a terrible idea, but
I guess. So here is what. One second, let me share my screen. There we go. Start screen. So that's it. That is the M9. You can see it's got the front-firing speakers, but it looks like either that's a flash or a massive sensor in the front with a 5-megapixel camera. And then I don't have any rear images.
See, this is what I mean is like when and for the rear images that I've seen, it looks very much like the M8 but with a larger camera sensor on the main body on the back. But I think that's why I'm questioning whether or not what we're seeing here is actually anywhere near finalized design. I could totally be wrong, and HTC might not stray very far from one of their most successful smartphones of late. Oh,
yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So you look at that and you're like, okay, sure, I get it, but maybe what we might see are some hardware refreshes or updates moving on. I mean, really, for me, the M8, the biggest problem was the camera. So if that's what they're finally taking steps to address, that's really all I needed. That would make me happy.
I see. I've also seen some that had the dual camera at the back with the same large sensor.
Which is why I think that might be sort of, recycling current build hardware just to test new guts. Like if you had a bunch of M8 shells lying around and you just slapped in a new PCB and a new camera module and you did cutouts for that front face, you'd still have the hole punched out for that second rear camera sensor. And I'll be really surprised if HTC continues with the duo camera sensor moving forward.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. The specs here from Fandroid are 810 chip, 3 gigs of RAM, 1080p display. Although I've heard now it's 4K. I'm not focusing 2K. Who knows? 2800 milliamp battery, Android 5.0 with HTC Sense 7.0, and 20 megapixel rear camera with an ultra pixel camera in the front, which I can see them being ultra pixel in the front because they have it with the 826. So I don't know. Any thoughts, Warren, Sam?
Well, it seems like it's HTC making the same phone again, which, come on, that doesn't put past their history. It's like, I mean, why are people surprised? It's just adding a bigger camera. I'd be really surprised if they did away with dual camera, as much crap as they touted about that thing, and as much they talked about development for it. So, I mean, if there's not a lot of development for it, then yeah, but if all of a sudden they started seeing these apps and everything, all this other stuff kind of get integrated in there with it, using it, I could see them still doing something. Maybe, heck, they could still do a camera as long as the like cameras don't suck. I mean, that's really what was the problem with the original, like with the M8. It was just that it had this feature, it just didn't make anything better.
Yeah, because that's the thing with the dual camera, which maybe they need to talk to Intel about, because they were trying to make it seem like you needed almost close to the same lens size. But Intel RealSense does not require that. It just requires a regular 720p camera, which is basically almost like a 1 megapixel, and then your whatever camera you want, whether it's 8 or 10 megapixels up there.
I mean, if you're going to use another camera to bring in more data to help the main lens take better pictures, that makes sense, and that makes sense to do. if it's going to come out good, if you're going to have two good cameras to go with it. It's just like, LG added a laser autofocus that helped take pictures faster, more accurate. It helped make the photos better than the previous model. Those are the things I want to see kind of happen if they're going to add additional things to a camera to improve the quality. I don't think HTC had a bad idea with dual camera, but like I just said,
I think because I agree with you, Warren. I think the big problem for me was that they picked duo camera over a feature that did improve photography. They picked duo camera over optical image stabilization. That has a real tangible benefit on your low light stills and your video in smoothing out some of your video. And duo camera didn't really have any outside developer support, and it didn't have any other features other than things that kind of felt gimmicky to really improve your photography. So they sacrificed a core photography and a videography feature for something that felt kind of gimmicky. And so I'm hoping that when we see them talking about a 20 megapixel image sensor, that they're going back to something that will benefit. A slightly larger image sensor size is going to give you better low light support, and optical image stabilization is going to smooth out your video, and that would be a great combo for HTC to move forward.
Yeah, I would like to see that, the 20 megapixel OIS, then they have some type of small, maybe they dual camera it again, and that camera, all that camera does is maybe help with low light, or maybe it helps with color accuracy, or maybe it helps with something else to improve the original 20 megapixel sensor. I think they have a good idea with dual camera, it's just making it better quality. And that's where I think they need to really focus on.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Sam?
Personally, I think that
whoa! Man, that is clear.
All right, so the M9 isn't, to me, it's not a big step away from the M8, design-wise, and I think the whole rumor of maybe even adding a fingerprint scanner might be actually pretty interesting. The thing is, what's the features? What are the feature sets going to be apart from the camera? For the camera, they can't afford to go with the same camera they had in the M8, because even though it was good on the even though it was good in the low lights, it was pretty shitty for everything else. So they have to actually definitely change the rear camera, but the front-facing camera wasn't bad at all. So that's fine. So what are they going to do with feature sets, right? The last iteration had nothing whatsoever to do with heart rate monitors or fingerprint scanners, and we have all these phones right now that are offering those options as standard. So what is HTC bringing to the table? And I'm not really seeing them doing much. They're keeping the same design and leaving out some features that people, are beginning to see as standard. So we'll see how it turns out, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be an awesome design, even if they stick with the old M8 design. But I'm not too sure how the M9's overall feature set is going to, come out.
I think they will have a fingerprint scanner. Just because I know Samsung's fingerprint scanner is going to be bigger. It's no longer going to have a swipe feature. This is inside knowledge, like inside baseball. I'm just joking, but I think HTC will go that route to some degree. Just because it's one of those things now, especially with Apple Pay picking up how many million customers are using Apple Pay, and Google is also looking. Looks like Google is also looking to buy. Oh my God.
Soft card.
Yeah, I was about to say the other name.
That unfortunate name.
It's interesting. It's really interesting with Google buying the whole Google soft card kind of issue, because soft card was created.
I'll just say what you're about to exactly say.
I'm so frustrated by that. I mean, if Google does end up buying soft card, it's because of soft card that the entire mobile purchasing market got kicked back years.
Yeah,
They could have been doing this long ago, and for it to come all the way back around because they didn't instantly become a success and Apple Pay eclipsed them in the first couple months.
Basically,
Apple Pay was available.
the device manager, all the device manufacturers said, "Oh, soft card. Well, we have this." It just went like that.
It was an obvious collusion between all the ISPs and banks, really, because they decided.
I don't know about the banks. I think the banks, for them, it was.
No, I think for the banks as well. Because
I think the banks have been looking at their own solutions for mobile payments. They don't.
Yeah,
I don't think they're really on board.
I think they started looking at that because of the collusion that was going on with the ISPs.
Right. I was going to say the carriers were all working together on this, so I think the banks were saying, well, what can we do? And now the credit card companies are also looking at advanced security measures for, and like chip and pin and things like that. So.
Now, chip and pin has been in the works for years. It's something that we all knew was going to come out.
No, chip and pin has been around in Europe.
We've known that for years and years.
I think it's what's supposed to be standard by 2017 or something like that.
Exactly. Exactly. So when we talk about what used to be called ISIS and what is now called SoftCard, it is, when I say banks and ISPs, basically these guys are getting cut off when it comes to basically making a lot of the, I would say the
transaction fees?
Transaction fees, right. Not on the customer end, but more on the seller side of things. So they're going around now and saying, hey, you know what? We have to try to go in there and get some of those transaction fees. Now, Google was doing a great job before that because I think Google was actually picking up speed. I was seeing Google in actual Macy's. Like Google Wallet was actually in Macy's. And right after ISIS SoftCard came out, it was as though
it kind of did what ISIS did to the freaking payment industry.
Okay, the reason I keep saying ISIS and SoftCard is I want people to understand that basically they failed for some major reasons. They failed because they never picked up steam. Initially, when it came out as ISIS, they basically required everyone to have a new SIM card in order for this stuff to work. Yeah. And then they had a huge marketing snafu because with the whole, we all know what ISIS is if you watch the news. And it took them a while to actually create a marketing campaign to capture the hearts and minds of people saying, hey, oh, what is this SoftCard stuff? It just showed up on your phone without really an explanation of what SoftCard really was. So
by the way, none of your cards support it.
Yep.
None of your cards support it. Unless you got Amex, none of your cards support it.
So it was a poorly thought answer to Google Wallet, and all it did was what Juan said. It basically kept mobile payments back.
It was a format war. It was Blu-ray versus HD DVD, but with our monies.
Exactly. How do we get your money?
And then people just went, exactly. I'm gonna swipe my card.
And then Apple Pay came out and basically decided that it was going to smack everyone and has smacked no one. But so they were doomed. They were just basically doomed. Just a very interesting convalescence of, or should I say, combination of events. Put it that way.
Yeah, I think hopefully with Google buying that up and integrating it to Google Wallet or whatever they want to rename it as, might spark some
just gonna kill
it. No, they won't kill it. It just will be. It will just be Google Wallet now officially on every phone for every carrier.
Which can already kind of happen anyways.
Yeah, but now we have carrier blessing because that's probably one of the things Google will say. If we're buying this has to be standard. Yeah, this has to be installed. That kind of thing. So I think we might see an uptake, and that helps, and then that gives you better competition, on the market. Except of course you now have people like Best Buy and CVS who wants to do their own thing too altogether. So
that's gonna work.
That's gonna work.
So yeah, that's that. But moving on to the other smartphone, which we know will probably make its big announcement at MWC. Samsung Galaxy S6 and the specs out, or these rumored specs out, sorry. This one is coming from BGR and also mixed with Bloomberg. It's going to have a 64-bit core processor, 14 nanometer, and word is that most likely Samsung is going to run with its own processor because A10 is having a lot of bad rumors in terms of production and stuff. So
they already do that for the international versions.
No. They're saying they might go everything on X.
Yeah, LG just came out with the G4 is rumored to be held up, but they just came out and said, "Oh no, everything's fine with the A10. Everything's fine. Everything's good."
Yeah.
But the important thing is if that's going to be the case, does the Exynos processor support LTE well? That's really what's the biggest issue. Was the only
I had a great experience on the Alpha. That was
it supports LTE now. It's just that remember Samsung has always just stood it up because they do have a larger supply. It's just that now I just read also from I think GSM Arena stating that they also might either get a different version of the A10. A slightly different version. It looks like
I don't know. I thought the big
Qualcomm is going through some stuff with.
I thought the big problem earlier for the Exynos was that they hadn't quite caught up on supporting high resolution.
No, the Alpha
playback.
and the Alpha. You talking about the Galaxy Alpha?
Yeah.
That's an 801 in America. It is.
I'm pretty sure it was an Exynos.
No, but Exynos does support LTE.
We haven't had Exynos since the International S2 here.
No, the Exynos supports LTE anyway. So I mean, we'll see what it is. But the other specs are a 5.1-inch Quad HD display, PPI of 577, which is pretty high. A huge 20-megapixel OIS camera, which actually coincides with another report that just posted on GSM Arena maybe about 10 minutes ago or so, stating that Samsung is beginning production of a 20-megapixel OIS camera. So that's most likely will fit into their device. A 5-megapixel front-facing camera, which real-time HDR. Storage would be 32, 64, 128. No, didn't mention anything about micro SD. Might have it. Battery 2,500 milliamps. Built-in wireless charging. Yay! That's me.
That's big. That's actually pretty big.
4 hours of usage and 10 minutes of charge. So quick charging. Samsung Pay. They're making their own.
Yeah.
Works with 90% of magnetic strip payment terminals and NFC terminals. So, that's according to this report. Metal and glass body, which is completely different from anything Samsung has done. Gorilla Glass 4 and Cat 6 LTE. So,
well, I mean, they've done metal phones before, like the Galaxy.
No, but I mean, it's metal and glass. I mean,
the Note 4 is basically.
No, I mean all metal. I mean, like they did the Galaxy, the Active S4 was an all metal phone. They just had the little rubber bumpers at the top and bottom for your antennas.
Yeah, true.
The question becomes, when they say all metal, are they still going to have that plastic back? And I hope they do, because to me that's going to be, can you switch out the battery or not? That's going to be the question.
From the sound of it, if it's metal and glass, I don't think you'll be able to switch out the battery.
That's going to be.
You could switch out the battery on the Galaxy S4 Active. You could switch out the battery on the Galaxy S Captivate.
That might be the reason for the 4 hours and.
No. That's why I said.
If that happens, that might be a case where it doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you say metal and glass, I mean, the screen is glass. So.
Yeah, so I'm assuming the rest of the body is going to be metal. You know?
Really, Juan, really?
You're trying to say make metal and glass sound like something we've never seen.
No. Juan is like, well, there is glass right here in the front. This is glass.
This thing right here. Yeah, this is glass. It's actually a few layers of glass, but we're more interested in this side here, the plastic side.
And honestly, you know how cranky I'm getting about this kind of stuff. I'm not going to be happy until we stop seeing metal and glass and start seeing metal and sapphire or something like that.
So
metal and diamond.
Big.
I want to see diamond.
Metal and diamond. Wow.
If Kyocera can pull it out, hold on, I've got it right here. Where the crap is it? If Kyocera can pull sapphire off on a $400 phone, Samsung should be able to do this. Apple should be able to do this. This thing is freaking amazing, and I want it on everything.
So how many of those Kyoceras were made? That's the thing, right? What's the production process for it? Because I think the issue Apple had is just producing the production cost of doing sapphire.
No, not at all. I forgot who was making sapphire, and they're like, yeah, we're ready to go. We can do it at the same cost.
Well, and then also it was also who Apple bet on and who Apple invested in couldn't scale beyond the camera lens. Yeah. But even then, I mean, like you already have a company in place that's able to scale for the insane number of camera lenses that you need for all of these iPhones.
Yeah.
Instead of saying let's double down and let's invest in actually improving this manufacturing process, they scrapped the whole thing.
Yeah.
So they sold off that company for parts. Again, that's not progress, man. That's not making the stuff better. And again, whether or not Kyocera, a company that is only just now starting to build out GSM phones, is capable of manufacturing an insane number, they managed to do it and make a profitable phone at $400. You can't tell me a company like Samsung couldn't start an investment and start some R&D into building out, scaling, and then also making something that could be profitable, at that kind of scale.
I mean, I
definitely agree with that. But the thing is, why wouldn't they? I think that's what the question is. Why isn't Samsung doing that? What is it that they know or that Apple knows? That
I think Samsung just wants to go with graphene. Let's just be frank. Everybody wants to go with graphene. So you can do inductive charging on your glass, and you're done.
Or just wireless charging from anywhere in your apartments.
Yeah. But till that happens with pencil. We can eventually get there. But I think, I mean, looking at the specs for the Galaxy S6, sorry, and comparing them to the HTC, I mean, the rumored specs, they're both rumored specs. The ones for the S6 look really enticing to me. Yeah, just in comparison, because it looks like, at least from what they're saying, Samsung has now gone and said, okay, we had the best camera last year for an Android phone on the Note 4. Let's let's improve that. Let's double down on that. We increase in storage. We're looking at more charging options with wireless charging, and that 4 hours of usage.
Well, and also they're making the same talking points about streamlining TouchWiz, which again, a lot of us geeky people are going to be really happy to see maybe a leaner Galaxy S6.
I think Android 5.0 is going to help.
Or maybe even the turning off of TouchWiz. Maybe they should consider.
No, they will not. I mean, why would?
No, I mean, like, because I don't want. I honestly don't want them to get rid of TouchWiz.
No, I mean the option to turn it off.
No, because Google still hasn't stepped up to give me things like split screening apps.
Yeah.
So that means one of the main things that I love about Samsung phones is the ability to have two apps on my screen at the same time, which means I still kind of need to use TouchWiz. Until Google steps up and actually gives us a very useful and helpful feature like that, then we're kind of, we're kind of stuck with Samsung's customizations. But if they can streamline, how candy colored and how sort of tied in with every other part of the UI that TouchWiz is, if you can just simplify some of that and relying on Lollipop to give you all the pretty stuff, then I think we'd be in a much better position.
No, definitely.
I can agree with that. I can definitely agree with that.
Yeah. We have a few comments here in the Q&A. Lou Rod says, "Good day, guys. I sent you some info entertainment parts for the show." Where, Lou Rod?
He sent it.
I have no idea.
He said he sent it. You better know where it is, man.
I have no idea where it is.
Lou Rod thinks about we should discuss an entertainment.
Yeah, because we didn't actually list anything. So that's that. And then Lynn Marie says, yes, for metal and glass. I hope Samsung does the form factor in the G6. Why is battery switching important? Carry travel charger station.
Battery is important because
battery switching.
I'll take this one. So most of my power management when I'm on the go comes from power banks. I actually don't have one within reach, but I've got a couple different, from like little pocket ones that can recharge a phablet to giant bricks that can recharge all of my friends' phones over a long weekend. So that's you're absolutely right. You either have some sort of power outlet, portable charger type solution, or some sort of portable battery solution. But the thing that I really still value about having a removable battery, Warren's holding up that's a Tilt, right?
Yeah.
Was that the 12,000?
The 10,000.
10,000. So I mean that thing's going to charge a tablet
somewhere
3 or 4 times over. But the thing I still value about having a removable battery is, for most people who don't go through phones as quickly as I do, you're going to probably hold onto your phone for over a year. And your battery starts to degrade at around that 1 year point. Usually it's not too severe, but you lose runtime just because these cells age and die. So the ability after, say, a year to rip out that backplate, pop out the old battery and put in a new battery is a really great way to refresh a phone as it's starting to age. And it's something that you can't do with a phone that has the battery sealed in. And especially like you start talking to people who have phones that start out with smaller batteries like iPhones. People at the end of their 2-year contract on an iPhone are often complaining about things like runtime and battery life. It doesn't matter how efficient the phone is at handling power. The cells are aging and dying, and they're just not able to carry as much charge as they could when the phone was brand new. On a Samsung or an LG, you don't have that problem, because once your phone starts to not run as long, you pop out the old battery, you put in a new battery, and it's like you've got a brand new phone all over again.
And coming from my perspective, which is simply just someone who's had a phone before that had a defective battery, I wouldn't want to replace my entire phone and go through the whole process of, uploading my data again and everything else simply because my battery wasn't working. I would rather just pop out the battery and buy something that's, a better battery, or have the company send me just that single part. So for me, when it comes to RMA, for me, it's easier that way. So that's why I'm always a big supporter of any phone that has a replaceable battery.
Plus, it is cheaper for the said company. If you call customer service and you find out, okay, battery's defective, they're like, all right, fine, we just send you a battery. Rather than you send the phone back in, we have to open it up, or wipe out stuff, put a new battery in, or basically give you a brand new phone.
Or the
Because
horror, I mean, especially if you're environmentally conscious at all, and you look at a phone that's as gorgeous as the HTC M8, but that thing is impossible to service. No, I'm serious. Once that thing is all put together, it is not really a very easy phone. And I would highly doubt that they are surgically, opening all of those phones that might have warranty issues instead
Scrap
of
it
just
and get a new one.
scrap it and get a new one, scrap it and give them a refurb, scrap it and get a new open box, something like that. Which means there's a ton of this material just sort of, and the stuff is finite. Like we can't keep burning through devices like that.
Yeah, no, definitely. Marie has another question. She says, "Happy New Year, fellas." This is actually her first question. 2015 will be a great year for technology. The HTC M7 was a great phone. I hate they got separated from Beats. I'm actually happy they did. It will be interesting. It will be interesting to see what HTC announces. I think the 2015 Samsung Galaxy will be the top Android phone for the year. Sorry, comment, not question. I think in terms of like audio. We're going to see more audio companies here with smartphones. We've heard like Dolby is looking to jump in and help with audio quality. We also hear that Bose is very interested because Bose is making this big commercial push now into the market. So they're looking to partner with a smartphone company. So I think we're going to see a lot of that. We already saw Harman Kardon do something with HTC last year. Yeah. So we might see more of that, audio tuning, which is great because when you spend most of your time listening to music off your phone, you should looking at better sound, whether it's the speaker or even the sound engineering in the device itself, so that we can actually get better audio. I don't see why your phones can't handle high-end audio in the first place.
Well, actually,
what
I'm really hoping to see is that that the high-end market gets hip to some of the changes coming in Lollipop. So I mean, like, I've already run tests on doing audio recording on Android 5.0 using USB interfaces, USB microphones, and I think if a couple of those companies actually started getting into the game, saying like, oh yeah, it's really cool that Dolby has like some little tweaky app software on your phone that gives you better stereo widening, but we've got a 24-bit 192 kilohertz DAC that you can plug directly into your phone's micro USB port to give you insanely pristine audio quality. That could be something that actually shifts the market toward, especially for people who care about audio. It's not just I want to soundtrack my workout. It's like I want to have an actual listening experience, or I want a super high quality audio signal. That could be something that actually turns a few heads, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I would say for her point of saying that the Samsung Galaxy line is going to be the
top line of the
year. I would say chances are yes, very very true, but don't discount LG because LG kind of changed the game last year. They really did change the game last year, and I think they might come out swinging again this year. So let's keep an eye out for LG, and they might actually surprise you.
Okay. There's a question here on the YouTube channel. Somebody asks, NC Gaming, will Windows 10 be on the Nokia Lumia 520? I don't know. Microsoft they've changed their tune on a couple of devices. They said the 435, which just launched, which actually has less specs, will have Windows 10. And then they mentioned the 930 and 735, but didn't really mention other devices which should be capable. So chances are it's possible. You try it out when the beta hits after the Super Bowl, pretty much. So I would say test it out. If it works, it works. If it doesn't,
what's the name of the app? It's Phone Insider or something like that?
I can't remember. I was even thinking. I think it's Phone Insider.
So be on the lookout for Phone Insider. I think that's going to be where we're going to start seeing Windows 10 previews go up instead of the preview for developers.
Yeah. So at least we know that the 1520, because that's what we put on, the 930 and the 735 we'll be able to run Windows 10. But I think everything should in some perspective.
I mean, their official word is if it's running Windows 8, Windows Phone 8, it should be running Windows 10.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've seen anything official that would hint at any kind of restructuring on that. And
I think maybe because those are the devices they've already tested it on,
And it's just like, and it's especially like how we've still yet to see the official rollout for Lumia Denim here. The devices that got it first were the devices that they were sort of already building it for anyway, and now they're working to move it to other phones too. And I think that's kind of what the Microsoft team is doing with Windows 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true. And then Lurod asked, Lurod, we're still waiting for that entertainment piece because I have no idea. If you can post it in the Q&A, that'll be fine.
Oh, I think I've got it. I think I've got something here. He sent me a Hangout. So
okay.
I'll see if I can pull it up.
Okay, cool. And he asked, any of you going to MWC this year?
Not this year. I got to take some time off, man.
Yeah, Sam will be heading there this year. He'll be covering the show for us. So he'll be there. He'll be at the show. Anything else in tech before we move to entertainment and see what Lurod has for us?
Just real quick, because I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on it. We don't have to spend a lot of time because Google seems to be on a buying spree.
Oh yeah.
So we've got Google rumoring. So we already talked about Google potentially buying Softcard.
Yeah.
And then there was also the rumor that Google might be launching its own MVNO service, piggybacking on Sprint and T-Mobile networks, and that Google threw in $1 billion to SpaceX for Elon Musk's concept of building out internet via satellites.
Yeah.
So it just seems if any company really is trying to take over the Earth, it's Google.
Well,
and then also Google's looking to buy Twitter. According to
there was a rumor there too that Google could be looking to buy out Twitter.
But I think what Google really is trying to do is let these ISPs know that their days are really numbered. Google's making a move to really let those ISPs understand that, the way you do business right now cannot continue. And especially with the whole idea of SpaceX, look at the way Google looks right now. It's attacking with Google Fiber. It's going with an MVNO service, and it's possibly going to go on with internet via satellite as well. So,
well, and didn't they also try that pilot program where they were trying to roll out emergency web connectivity using balloons or something like that?
The balloons, yeah. But they really, really are pushing for the landscape when it comes to internet service providers. They're really pushing the landscape to change, and I think it's a really great move by Google. I'm very sure it's not some kind of philanthropic move by Google, but there definitely is going to be gains in there. But the thing is, hey, if you are looking at a business, or should I say, looking at a business model that actually benefits your users or actually provides great service for what people are paying for, then yeah, I'm all for it. And right now, if you're on Time Warner or Comcast, chances are you're not.
Not if you're on Time Warner. Let's correct it. If you're on Time Warner, because you have shitty service. I don't.
Oh God, I have the worst service ever.
I'm just gonna put it out there.
Are you on Time Warner too, Sam?
Oh yes, I am.
He's on Time Warner.
All right, Time Warner Brothers United.
We know the
anytime.
Hey! Don't hate on the Comcast brothers.
Any second I get any competition real competition, I will absolutely leave Time Warner Cable.
No, I do
have
like
my money.
I do like the fact that Google is making those pushes there because they won't take out those services, but they will force them to make changes, which is always good. They will force Comcast to say, okay, fine, let's open up the pipe. I mean, internet in space currently, I'll say in the next 10 years will never be faster than fiber optics landline. I mean, it just never will be. But at least it gives something as competition. It really forces that. And also them trying to, if they do open up their own cell service, that just will, that adds more to T-Mobile. What T-Mobile's been saying and it's been preaching for the last couple of years, especially the CEO who just laid the smackdown on Sprint. I can't remember what he said. Warren, can you remember?
Shitty network.
Yeah, he basically called out Sprint.
Well, and it's funny, in that T-Mobile, having
that,
recently improved their network on the back of AT&T's cash, is now calling out other people with crap networks.
You know what? Normally I would say, hey, take out the log in your eye before you. But I'm like, it's Sprint. Yes, anyone done in Sprint. Yes, go.
No, but you do have to give T-Mobile credit because even though they needed AT&T's cash, the thing is when they went out and did it, they actually went.
No, they did. No, I'm totally. But again, it's one of those things where we're actually watching Sprint start to get back into improving their network too, which is why I think it's funny that T-Mobile wasn't that long ago that T-Mobile's network wasn't really that great either.
Oh yeah, definitely true.
No, not true.
Yeah, so
Even while their network wasn't doing too great, we should still at least give T-Mobile the you know kudos for how they decided even before they started working on the hardware on their hardware was simply to go out and start shaking up the market when it came to services.
Totally.
So they really have done, or they really do have an outlook. They have a plan to get somewhere that
Well, and this is why I
think
like seeing
Sprint
more
have a
companies
plan.
in this space, and I'd really hate to see Sprint and T-Mobile merge, is because you don't get crazy rogue moves like what T-Mobile's been doing with Uncarrier. You know, like a company gets desperate and figures out they can't compete against Verizon's network, so they do something drastic with pricing. You don't get that when you start consolidating the market, which also, I mean, could be really interesting to see what Google does here, because I don't think their plan is to buy a carrier. I think their plan is to create an MVNO service like Straight Talk.
yeah, with Sprint though, it's like I think it was you, Sam, who said last year that is it SoftBank in Japan, right? That's the parent company.
Yes.
Yes, SoftBank bought the ugly sister,
Yeah.
and they were probably going, this is not the relationship I wanted.
Yes, it definitely isn't. I don't think anybody in their right mind would have bought Sprints. I think that buying them and then changing the leadership was a good idea. But for a company that's been so far out of touch, I really don't know how long it's going to take them to get back in the mindset of people for being like a truly trustworthy carrier. And I think that's the biggest challenge they have. It's not just improving your service. It's not just providing people with great connectivity and including your coverage map or offering better sounding or better looking phones. It is getting back the customers you lost because you basically looked at them as cash cows and didn't give them the value they were paying for. And right now we live in a world where you have Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile, with T-Mobile really shaking up the market. Why is it in my best interest as a consumer to go back to Sprint, which I know treated me like crap? And when they can answer that question, then people go back to them.
All right, cool. I think that wraps it up for the tech side of things. We can.
No. Let's talk about this thing that came out. It's called the Halo. Oh, I'm just joking. Let's go. Let's keep going.
Do you want to briefly give your thoughts on the HoloLens? Okay, we'll give you. How much time can we allot to Sam?
Well, and first of all, guys, we're gonna
30
nip
seconds.
this. We're gonna nip this in the bud right now because both of you are now starting to say HoloLens. Stop it.
No, I said Holo.
I said Halo.
You said HoloLens.
I said HoloLens.
Oh, really? I said Halo? I'm saying, I meant
You
to say-
said it's the HoloLens, and you're like,
I meant
no,
to say
we're not
HoloLens.
going to do that. We already have the Spartan browser in Cortana. It's HoloLens.
Holo.
Stop.
Sorry. Excuse my African pronunciations.
Halo.
Holo.
Yeah, no. It's the HoloLens. The Halo.
The HoloLens, which might actually have you play Halo in your regular world. No, but okay, I'm just gonna put this way. Facebook bought a company called Oculus Rift, and they've done basically nothing with it. Microsoft bought this company called Minecraft, and yes, they've done shit with it. I'm sorry, but no, I just wanted to put that out there and have everyone think about that for next time they decide to dog Minecraft or Facebook.
We'll talk about that in another time. But let's move on to entertainment. Juan, do you have anything from Blue Rod? Because I know he said something to you.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull this back.
Okay, so while you're pulling that up, there are a couple of entertainment things that happened. I just saw an article that says Tyrese wants to play Green Lantern.
That's actually one of the things that he sent. Was
Really?
Tyrese, and then also Michael Jai White also made some noise about trying to do that too.
Tyrese as Green Lantern? No, I just don't see him as Jon Stewart.
Well, to his point, if you make a crappy Green Lantern movie, chances are you get an even better, superhero movie. So it might be a stepping stone, You make one crappy Green Lantern, you become an awesome Deadpool. You never know.
Right?
Wherever that logic is coming from.
Ryan Reynolds and his...
Ryan Reynolds was supposed to be Deadpool. We knew that from day one.
Yeah, but come on. After that Green Lantern, would you have trusted him with another superhero?
No. I mean, he did Blade 3, which was crappy, but he sounded like Deadpool or Flash to me in that movie.
Yeah, no.
But I mean, the one I think is a little more interesting is Michael Jai White. I actually don't know that I would hate that. I think that could be an interesting casting for a Green Lantern.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Because all he has to do is be sort of severe and grumbling and like stoic.
Yeah, true.
And,
Which he
you
does
know,
half the
Diesel.
time, right?
I think he can do that.
Yeah, John was not as diesel as that. That's the thing.
But that's just it. It's like Michael
But
Jai
then
White
we
isn't,
also, but
isn't
you
as
gotta
rough
remember,
as
he's
people.
kind of typecast. The second I see Michael Jai White, I want to see him go break somebody's neck.
But the thing is, like,
Anger.
No. I'm gonna give Michael Jai White more credit here because at least once every 6 months I got to sit down and watch Black Dynamite because
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You know,
for that alone.
we know he's got a sense of humor. We know he can play a lil. So I think he could pull it off. I think he could do a really good job with.
That's true. Thanks for bringing Black Dynamite. That's changed my perspective.
Plus to his benefit,
remember the part of Black Dynamite? The guy's like, my mama says my daddy's Black Dynamite. Mama says Black Dynamite. Hush, child. What are you talking about?
What you talking about? What?
Oh God, but yeah, that Black Dynamite was funny. But I think also to his credit, he probably will be able to do a lot of the stunts on his own as well. So
I think they'd make a big point out of showing that he was doing a lot of this.
Yeah,
it would make it credible. It would make his acting a lot more credible than.
Well, and also not just his acting. I mean, like, I think one of the problems that you run into with Green Lantern is it can go over. I mean, like with the actual Green Lantern film that we got, is that it was kind of a cartoony mess.
Yeah.
And so if you can ground some of that action with people who can do more wire stunts as opposed to making everything just way over the top cartoony CG, I think it helps.
Well, that's kind of the problem with Green Lantern, isn't that kind of his thing? Is this very cartoony, comic-y weapon?
Well, but not
even
Jon Stewart though.
anything.
Jon Stewart's vibe is a bit more reserved than.
Yeah, I mean, the Green Lantern it all depends on who you have. Like Jon Stewart his character was supposed to be the most grounded Green Lantern. Everything needs structure. You know, he's a military guy, he's an engineer, so everything is like structured with him. Compared to say someone like Kyle Rayner, who is just an artist, so everything is like imaginative. You know?
But I think, like, realistically, if you want to go the way Green Lantern should be done as a movie, I think they should have started with Kyle because people would understand how the Green Lantern powers work better with Kyle than with anyone else. Because Kyle's artistry comes into, his power sets because he thinks that way. You can show that, he's creative. That's why he uses his ring to do all these other things. He can use his ring to do that.
Although I still think there's the argument to be made for starting off with someone who's more disciplined because this ring can do anything you imagine.
Yeah, true.
I mean, like, it just really depends on what flavor DC is trying to arrive at, and especially post-Nolan Batman.
I can agree with you.
Realistically, post-Nolan, go with John. For that, yes, 100%, because John is, to me, out of all the Green Lanterns, he's the one that has a lot more baggage. Just to talk about how, the original Green Lantern died and came back or whatever, but John has done some things as a Green Lantern that kind of messed him up. So
I mean, true, but I think it fits the kind of DC realm in the sense of like it's slightly darker. It's also a little bit more rigid compared to Marvel. And looking at some of the other casting rumors is that Kyle Urban they're looking for him as the villain in Aquaman, most likely Aquaman's brother. And then you also have another actor who can play somebody, menacing and really form and strong. And then Joe Magliano is also rumored to be Deathstroke in Suicide Squad, and that's somebody who's also very big. Like DC wants all their characters to look like gods. That's their own thing. It's like we don't care. No one's gonna look small. We want massive, bone-crushing individuals. So.
That's interesting. Well, I think the problem with the Green Lantern thing is that they don't explain very well. What make it understand better if they actually explain the emotional spectrum, the fact that
I would agree. I agree with that.
And if they made it so much it's just not him, if this Green one is like this other powers that are happening around. And I think if they explain that,
Yellow Lanterns,
if they explain that emotional connection there, that really, willpower. I mean, you have to tap into it, or else you just can't use that ring properly.
What is it? Will, death, fear,
love, and
all the other ones and stuff like that. But if they actually went out to explain those, it better understands the power of these rings. And I think because they don't really explain it other than he's a character that can just make anything with a ring.
Yep.
Well, the Wonder Twin powers can do the same damn thing. So
Right.
what's so interesting about it?
Yeah, well, that is true. No, I think you hit the nail on the head. They really there's a lot of background explanation that needs to happen with Green Lantern. Yeah.
Cool. Anything else, Juan?
Oh, yeah, I'm pulling it up right now. So he's got a mystery female superhero in Avengers: Age of Ultron is reported to be Mantis. So
I don't know who Mantis
in
is.
Age of Ultron.
Hmm?
And what else? Mantis. Oh, and that there's and the other thing that he posted was Han Solo and Boba Fett rumored to star in a Star Wars spin-off.
Yeah, we've heard that before. That they were thinking of doing a Han Solo and a Boba Fett. I don't know if it's combined or it's, separate movies, but I don't see why they wouldn't do that. Use Harrison Ford while he's still able to.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can at least use him in this movie and then one more movie before he gets too old, where you kind of phase him out, then you want to milk it as much as possible. But the interesting news, did you hear what Lucas said about his Star Wars?
Yeah. Oh, Schadenfreude.
Lucas said they did not use his idea for
at all. So he had like 7 major points that he had in mind for what a future Star Wars trilogy should look like, and apparently 0 of those ideas actually made it into J.J. Abrams' continuity. So,
Yeah, that's what happens when you make a trilogy that basically sucks.
What happened? What?
He
I missed this. What happened?
He basically had 7 points that he wanted to see in future Star Wars movies.
Who's this? George Lucas?
George
Lucas, yeah.
Yeah.
And because he still has creative input, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he still has creative input. So, and none of that made into the script, so at all in this movie.
Well, make a damn story that makes sense. I mean, Jesus, like you actually sit back and look at the Star Wars films. They make you watch all 6 of them. The story makes no sense.
No, the first three.
First 3.
First 3 made sense.
Let me tell you the story if you haven't seen it yet. Guess what? They find some kid that goes to the dark side, but does what he wants him to do any damn way.
Every one of
Star Wars.
That is the first 3. See, but that's the problem with the first 3. It starts negating some of the stuff that you already built.
Yeah.
I understand what he was trying to do in the first 3. He just did a bad job at doing it. Because the whole idea.
Terrible job.
Yeah, terrible. Yeah. The problem was because before that, had he done any movies in between? No.
Indiana Jones.
No, but Indiana Jones was way.
No, I don't know that he directed any films.
No, he didn't direct anything. He co-wrote, he co-produced or wrote Indiana Jones with Spielberg.
Well, I mean, that's his thing, is that he became a producer.
Yeah, he didn't direct anything since the original Star Wars.
Actually, Star Wars kind of took away from us what could have been a really exciting film career. Like when you look at THX 1138 and you look at his body of work leading, and especially his student work. He kind of became. It's funny that his story sort of parallels Darth Vader. That he became exactly what he was fighting agaged.
Exactly.
A major studio producer guy. It's really quite sad when you think about it.
So when is he going to kill the big overlord? Get over with.
No, but what he Scorsese, and I can't remember who the last director was. 3 of them came out around the same time with a very different idea on the way movies should be made. They were like, they really changed the way we watch modern movies. But what he did with the last 3, the last 3 Star Wars, man.
Well, but that's what happens when you've not directed anything for almost 20 years, right?
No, longer than that.
Let's call it 20, even that.
I'm looking at his filmography right now. He only directed the first Star Wars. He didn't direct the other 3. He didn't direct the other one until then.
And then you haven't done anything. Your skills are gonna lapse. You're not gonna be like your buddy Spielberg, who's been doing stuff constantly. And I wish he brought in Spielberg to do Star Wars, even though we would get a different feel, but we wouldn't get the crap because Spielberg would probably say, no, we need to chop some of this stuff out.
But that's also because Lucas as a director has 18 credits, Lucas as a producer has 67 credits, and Lucas as a writer has 95 credits.
Wow.
And Lucas as a businessman has billions and billions of dollars.
and then sold it all to Disney. He went with the dark side. He didn't actually throw the dark side over.
Okay, let's look at George Lucas as just a simple businessman and what he's done to the movie watching and animation industry. The dude is a genius. Let's be realistic. He's a genius. You know what he's done just for animation alone. I don't think anyone else would. No one else can basically say, "Oh no, someone else has done more."
Well, I mean, yeah,
changed the way animation is done.
Pixar, a lot of Pixar people.
Lucas Art Technology was one who actually where it got the Pixar where Pixar began from. You know, so he's done so much, and yes.
But maybe we have to be focused on what he is. He's a person that may not be not the best director in leading the movie, but he's the guy that can put all the creative elements together, and he could think in a way that, like, I want to make something look like this, and he can figure out the tools and get things together to make it happen that way. And that's kind of what that's kind of what he's provided, I think, to the film industry more than anything else. You know. It's like just like how what's his name? Who directed Avatar? James Cameron basically created. Here's a new way to do movies that I spent 10 years in telling you how to create this. The movie, he might not be the greatest director, but he created something that is revolutionizing the film industry.
I don't think anyone would question that Lucas has been a prolific producer and that his input has been used on a number of films. I think what we're starting to question is the perspective and the storytelling voice that comes from someone like Lucas is no longer in step with major audiences, or is falling out of step, I should say. Major audiences.
I mean, that's going to happen
in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And so, unless you can find a way to continue keeping yourself hungry, or finding some sort of creative conflict that is actually going to improve your storytelling ability, then you're going to fall out of step. And that's, I think, where most of the criticisms of Lucas fall.
But I also think it's a case of, you got to remember, when he probably wrote all this stuff, at the time period he wrote all this, and probably in his mind has this story he wants to stay stuck to and not want to change it. And that's just, he has to, there's something in himself that he has to go back and say, I need to rewrite this and think this from the time perspective.
And I also think it goes to the company that he keeps. I seriously doubt that he has people surrounding him that will go up to George Lucas and say, hey, I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think J.J. Abrams did.
No, but remember, that's under Disney. It doesn't matter.
Filmmakers have to deal with studio producers. They have to deal with constraints like budget. JJ, you can't do that. We don't have the money for it. Well, now we have to find a creative solution to work around that problem. And George Lucas doesn't have any of that. He has no constraints on budget. He has no constraints with people telling him what to do.
He made sure there's no constraints the second he went with the Mickey ears.
Totally. Well, but no, and lastly, he's also getting to an age where he wants to be comfortable. No one wants to have that shoot that he had with the original Star Wars, where he was facing sandstorms out in the desert. So he did all 3 movies mostly on green screen, and it shows. So you could do anything you wanted as long as your characters could walk and talk for 20 feet. That's it. That's all they could do. And anything else, like crazy, super hyper flippy action combat, became CG.
Yeah, no, I think those things, but you got to think about the visual artistry that was in that was still, it still looked very good.
The visual artistry was there, but I think to Juan's point,
and Skywalker, no one's ever questioned that Skywalker turns out amazing stuff. But when Skywalker's work comes from a story that's flawed, and comes from shoots that aren't very well put together because you have these insane issues with whether or not your characters can run down a hallway. There's only so much CG they can do to
scream no.
Yeah. But I think
I'm so mad that he added that to Return of the Jedi.
No, I think the problem with Lucas was, he got comfortable in pride. Because the honest truth is, if you know anything about Star Wars, right, Lucas did not need to do much to create a good script. There's already enough Star Wars literature written by so many novelists that covered the whole Star Wars universe that he could literally take something from there and say, okay, fine, let's craft this into a movie.
He needs to sit back. He needs to sit back and pull a George R.R. Martin, sit back and let someone else do all the work and write books, all that. Like, write it and just let someone else deal with everything.
I mean, that's why he
needs to get into that space where, like, George R. R. Martin's like, I'm too old for any of this. I'm going to write this. Just do this. Make it look good.
Well, and also, I mean, like,
please give me my sack of money every day.
Well, and I really think, especially when we see the execution on episodes 1, 2, and 3, that George Lucas needs to be the concept guy, and other people need to come in and actually write the dialogue and make all of the story points fit together. Again, I think George Lucas still has that creative passion for coming up with what the world should look like. Yeah. But I think he's too far removed now, and he's too comfortable.
Did you see Red Tails?
Did I see what?
Red Tails.
No.
No, I heard it wasn't very good though.
It wasn't a bad movie. I liked it. I wouldn't say it was great. I think it was one of those movies where this is Lucas trying to do something else, and I think he did. You could show. I mean, I think it's one of those things that if he kept on doing smaller movies like that, then maybe some of that creative side will come out. Come back, or at least be refreshed. But it was a nice starting point, I would say, for Lucas to try something different from his.
Maybe it's just me, and I just don't give a crap about the Star Wars story. It's just I don't know. It's just always been silly to me, and just like, okay.
How many people you've just offended in the planet?
I don't care. Star Trek's better. I don't care.
What?
I don't care.
This is actually true. Star Trek, minus some of the J.J. Abrams films, is totally better than.
Okay, this. Star Trek is one
of those things where, look, if you mention Deep Space Nine in Star Trek, I hate that whole series.
What?
I hate it. I hate it.
What is wrong with you?
Yes. I said it. You know what? You're the one that was terrible.
You said Voyager.
Voyager is bad too, but I was still doing it because the
Maybe I would agree with you on Voyager, but Deep Space Nine? Have you seen the Defiant?
We gotta be Booredatwork on his own damn hangout for that.
Whatever.
All you need, the only thing you just need to say about Deep Space Nine is
actually no, not Voyager. The worst one is Enterprise. The one with
Enterprise doesn't count. That didn't happen.
Scott Bakula went back in time and erased it, so it does not count.
No, but
that was just one long episode of Quantum Leap.
Oh my god,
it was just bad.
Oh boy. No, I actually kind of feel, because I'm not a huge fan of how Deep Space Nine wrapped up.
No, I will agree with that.
And I think that was also sort of more Ronald D. Moore than the trappings of Star Trek, because I think Ronald D. Moore fell into the same trap that he did in Deep Space Nine that he did with Battlestar Galactica, where he brought up all of these really interesting points, these really great conflicts, couldn't figure out a way to answer it, and then pushed the God did it button at the end of both of those series, which is disappointing.
I will say the thing, I always felt Deep Space Nine was a little ahead of its time and where it was, what type of show it was trying to be.
Totally.
I think if it would have came like 5 or 6 years later, it would have.
Well, I mean, think about the transition. In Star Trek: The Next Generation, you didn't have very many continuing storylines. You would occasionally bring characters back, and you would occasionally revisit points, but it wasn't like.
Well, technically, that wasn't even supposed to end because they were on a continuing mission. It wasn't like 5-year mission, so that technically that was supposed to be going on.
No, but I think this is a really important distinction, because in Star Trek: The Next Generation, the events of one episode wouldn't necessarily impact the events of the next. Remember the episode where Geordi is kidnapped by the Romulans and is trained to become like an assassin? In the next episode, he's still just their chief engineer, and it's like nothing went wrong. Like weeks of brainwashing and conditioning to kill people, and he's like suddenly fine in the next episode. Where Deep Space Nine started trying to introduce the idea of season-long arcs. Of course, one of the first shows to do that isn't going to be very successful in executing that. It shows that learn from the mistakes of Deep Space.
Well, but I think Next Generation should have a couple of things. I mean, the Borg thing lasted, and the whole thing with Q lasted too.
Right, but that's what I mean, is they didn't have season-long storylines. They had characters that would occasionally return.
Yeah, Q will always return, but it was never. He just returned like an imp and just did.
And that's a huge difference.
Until Diana's mother showed up.
Tried to do in middle seasons. So once you start getting into like season 3 and season 4 of Deep Space Nine, the events from episode to episode are actually influencing the continuity of the story over the arc of an entire season, and Next Gen never had that.
That's true. That's true. What you're saying is right.
Let's be a little bit more realistic with the whole with Star Trek and Deep Space Nine. The thing is, while Generations was going on, there was this really awesome show called Deep Space Nine that everybody was kind of flocking to. Now, I mean, not Deep Space Nine. I'm sorry, Babylon 5. That everyone was kind of.
I knew someone was going to bring it Babylon 5.
I never watched Babylon 5.
and I think Deep Space Nine was Star Trek's answer, or should I say, Star Trek's attempt to try to get back some of those viewerships from the.
Well, I mean, let's be fair though. Babylon 5 was never a runaway hit, or was never.
Yeah, it wasn't.
I seriously doubt Babylon 5 was taking eyeballs away from Star Trek.
But I think what Babylon 5 was doing, it was doing exactly what Deep Space Nine, went off to do, which is have continuity. There was actually a story told. There were different races introduced. There was all these political factions brought in.
I was about to say, that was the big thing about Deep Space Nine. It was less action and so much more political things going on.
So much more
and I think that might have turned off some people to it because there wasn't a lot of that. But if you paid attention to it, so much of their political topics was about shit that was going on at that time in the real world. So much of it.
It's interesting.
Which Star Trek has always been good at doing anyways. But that was like the big thing.
But this is the thing that also I liked about Deep Space Nine, and I hate bringing race into stuff and whatnot, but the captain of Deep Space Nine and his son, that whole interrelationship between a black dad and his son, I thought that was awesome. I really thought that was really awesome. So I was like,
I thought it was crap that he wasn't a captain until like the 4th or 5th season of the show.
What was interesting? What was interesting about that? What was interesting about that was the fact that was them sort of telling a better version of what they were trying to do with Worf and his son in the previous
generations. Yeah. No, Deep Space Nine was amazing, man, dude. I don't know what you're talking about, when you say Deep Space Nine was grabbing.
It just didn't gravitate to me. I actually watched more Babylon 5.
And the problem is like with Battlestar Galactica, because I know how Battlestar Galactica ends, I am far less likely to go back and watch even my favorite moments of Battlestar Galactica, whereas. knowing how Star Trek: The Next Generation ends, every couple of years I go through that whole series.
I don't know. I go back and watch Battlestar Galactica because I love the first 2 seasons.
Where
into the Pegasus storyline, that's where I think the show peaks. But I'm sitting there watching it the whole time, going, yeah, but none of this matters. None of this matters because we're going to get to the end of this and they're going to cop out with a giant red Deus Ex Machina button. None of this matters. I'm going through all of this conflict. I'm going through all of these intertwining storylines. The Cylons have a plan, and none of it matters. It would be like, would you go back and really go through and watch Lost and get into the mysteries again? No, you wouldn't, because none of it matters.
I never got into that show from day one. I thought it was.
I was hooked
from day one. I thought this is stupid.
I was tapped in, and then second season I was starting to cool, and by the 3rd season I had checked out.
Okay.
I watched 2 episodes of that.
All right, guys. We do have a few comments here. Let's go through quickly before we round up. Jonathan Swansea says, "Come on, Deep Space Nine was the best since the original." Yeah. You have 3 people who agree.
Next gen.
Yeah. That's fine. Lou Rod, this is a quick question for you, Warren.
I'm reading Jonathan Swanson's comments.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna get through them, but
while we're doing that,
quick shout out, I want to.
Leroy, this is a question for you, Warren. What do you think about Simon Pegg co-writing Star Trek 3?
Star Trek 3?
Yeah, the new one. He's co-writing it.
I'm fine with that. Like the thing is, I've liked the last 2 Star Trek movies, so I don't have too much of an. I would like to see them handle more of the political things that go on in the Star Trek universe, which they've kind of negated in the last 2 films.
They totally negated in the last.
Totally, come on. It was J.J. Abrams. He did a Star Wars audition for 2 movies.
Well.
That was his demo reel for Star Wars.
Listen, there was a scenes where they were in Star Trek headquarters and they were at least talking over things that were going on. At least they were doing that. You got to remember, this is the beginning of everything.
No. I'm
races that aren't around yet.
I'm actually really positive on the potential of a Star Trek 3 because Simon Pegg is a crazy. I mean, like, Simon Pegg's entire career has been playing the massive fanboy. From Space to the TV show to the unbelievable labors of love for zombie films and action films that you get with Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead. His entire career is embracing fandom and putting it up on a television screen or on a movie screen. So the fact that he's writing for Star Trek 3 makes me very excited about what we might get. And the fact that J.J. Abrams is not directing makes me very excited for what we might get, because we might no more lens flares, and we might actually get someone who likes Star Trek to direct a Star Trek film.
Well, no, but you got to give J.J. Abrams some kudos for basically reinvigorating a.
He did a good job there.
I mean, that's fine.
Feel.
We're giving him credit for reinvigorating a franchise by killing a lot of what makes that franchise the franchise that it is. So if we can get back to some of the heart, to some of the political commentary, I'm with Warren on that, then we have Star Trek back. Right now, we've got really crazy, exciting, super cool space opera combat action film with a couple Star Trek labels slapped on.
Yes.
And we'll make a joke about the Kobayashi Maru, and that'll satisfy the geeks. I mean, it's really cynical when you think
we'll keep a couple of red shirts.
Okay, all right. Let's move on to the next one. Nurod says, thoughts on Supergirl casting with Melissa... I can't pronounce her last name.
Is that how you pronounce her last name?
Ben. I don't know what she's done. I have no idea how they're going to do Supergirl, since they cannot mention Superman in their TV universe. So we'll see how that works. He also asked, anyone watch Justice League Throne of Atlantis? I have. I will give you guys my review sometime next week.
Oh, I need to watch that.
Yeah. And then Jonathan Swansea says, you got to remember Q showed up in Deep Space Nine and Cisco punched him and said no, and Q never see him again.
And he was never heard from again. Yeah. Although there was the interview, Patrick Stewart just did an interview a couple days ago where he's like, he would absolutely return to play Picard again. I mean,
that would be
anything we could get to get Picard back, and then maybe even a little John Delancey action with some Q. I'd be on board.
I do like more time. I would love to see it, but guys, that's more time messing. That's more messing with the time.
No, put it out on Netflix. I mean, do like a 1 hour reunion or something. I would
on Netflix. That would be so fantastic. Yeah, you can do that.
We all know Picard is the best captain that everyone knows he is. But some people just like to pretend that...
You know what I think is really funny about Picard is that they built up all of this stuff about him being like a diplomat. You know, he's the diplomat, he's the educated guy, he's this, he's that. And in the Star Trek universe, when you think about it, one of the things he's most famous for is a tactical maneuver that blew up a ship, the Picard maneuver. Like for all this like Kirk versus Picard, it's like, he actually could throw down.
Well, you know what? I would if they were to come back, I would like to see them make a movie in the Generation universe and just leave their own thing to. They don't.
Yeah, you can. Like that's why, like Juan said, you put it on Netflix, and it's that. It's a 1 hour, 2 hour movie on that on Netflix, and I think you will find that.
We need Data back again. That was my favorite character.
Jonathan also says Avatar was dances with wolves.
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
It was.
Yes.
I mean, that's it. I mean, like that's again. I mean, like it was frustrating watching people get cranky about Avatar when James Cameron isn't really known. I mean, like the whole point about making a film like Avatar, I'm sure he cared about the story. I'm not trying to be dismissive, but James Cameron of late has become the guy who pushes the boundaries on technology.
Yep.
And so the fact that the story was a little trite, that's not why we went to go see Avatar. I'm sorry, it's not. It was an entertaining enough story to showcase radical new technologies coming to filmmaking. That's all we really care about. And that's all I really care about for an Avatar 2, which apparently is going to get bumped another year in release because they're having technical issues.
Yeah. And finally, Lou Rod says, so what are your thoughts on the new X-Men casting with
Ty Sheridan as Cyclops, Alexander Shipp as Storm, and Sophie Turner as Jean Grey.
I am cool with Jean Grey using what's her name again in Game of Thrones?
Sansa Stark.
Sansa Stark. I think
Sansa Stark.
I think that's dead on. I was really happy to see that.
The guy who I wanted them to pick as Cyclops is the guy from the movie Kingsman. He was also in casting rumors for that, but because when I saw both of them together.
Where are we with X-Men now? I have no idea. Like if we're recasting characters that are already casted.
No. We're going back to follow the First Class crew. So they're going younger with a lot of these characters because I think Age of Apocalypse is supposed to take place in the 80s, right?
In the 80s, yeah. And this will continue my annoyance with what's his name again, the director, because Cyclops is younger than his younger brother.
Yeah. Well, with that being the retcon in this,
isn't that Sunspot or whatever?
Havoc is going to be the older brother now, and we're just going to all have to deal with.
I thought he was called Sunspot or something.
No, Sunspot was the
Sunspot
other guy.
was yeah.
Yeah. And then he goes, what are your thoughts on the 90s and 80s films returning like Terminator and Jurassic Park? It's our last question. And
well, in a movie market where we're really obsessed with reboots and not having to come up with a original IP, at least they're going to some of the franchises that I love, and hopefully we get stuff that kind of fits back into those deals. I'm very interested in seeing what they're going to do with Terminator. I kind of like how much they've bent time. So the idea of doing Terminator in the future just wasn't really as fun because you just end up with like another Matrix clone.
Yeah.
So that I'm looking forward to. Jurassic World, I don't know. I really haven't been on board any of the Jurassic Park sequels. I think that's a gag that can only really happen once.
The Jurassic World, I mean Terminator, I'm fine with it, especially like you said with the time, time shift or time.
Just like change, well, it just makes me happy. Like my favorite of the films is obviously Terminator 2, because you've got a Sarah Connor who knows what's up. So going back to twist time up again, where the younger Sarah Connor from the first Terminator film is already informed as to what's going on, and it twists that dynamic between her being the damsel in distress and actually being the one who's capable and a protector. That's awesome. I want to see that. I'm on board.
Especially since
I just wonder how the viewers are going to deal with the whole idea of causality, because that's what they're saying.
But the Terminator universe is built pretty solidly on alternate timelines.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not like there's ever been causality or ever been paradox in the Terminator movies. It's just
but basically
else back in the past, and now it's changed the timeline again. Oh well.
Yeah. No, but I wonder how people go like this. They're like, okay, so you sent him in the past and he fixed the problem, but then you still send someone in the past to an alternate past that's now the future, so she understands that you already came back to save her, but you came back to save her again, and you're saving the world again. So if you save the world this time, do you have two futures where the world is actually saved, or do you have to reboot the whole thing and go back to the world where it's really not even saved? Oh, this is going to be very interesting.
So, but that's actually what's kind of cool about Terminator, though, is that the timeline has always been a mess. We don't have the Back to the Future problem. Because in Back to the Future 1, they established that if you change the past, you'll just sort of get erased from the future, right?
Yeah.
And then in Back to the Future 2, that doesn't happen. They change the past, and they just create an alternate timeline.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
We never had that problem with Terminator. Terminator, it's always a mess.
We have three Arnolds.
That's true. And then just quickly on Jurassic World, the one thing I do not like is, why the hell do you go make an amusement park full of dinosaurs?
You think we'd learned our lessons now?
Well, he summed up what I was already thinking.
I mean, seriously. What? I mean, to me, I saw that, I was like, case over, done.
This has got a chance to be just as bad as Divergent.
Well, and also, what I thought we might see after Jurassic Park. After Jurassic Park 3 was the idea of doing like sort of a wildlife preserve that people could go like helicopter tour or something like that. You see the actual product designs for Jurassic World, and it's full-on Mickey Mouse SeaWorld.
How did they get back in and civilize things? That's the thing. How did you go back and civilize dinosaurs?
Well, obviously they didn't, and obviously they're going to get free, and obviously it's going to be a bloodbath. I mean, that's so on the nose.
All right, spoiler alert. Here's what's going to happen. They're going to genetically make some freak dinosaur, and it's going to just come up and wreck shit.
Yeah, that's in the trailer, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's in the trailer.
End of story.
They're going to create.
Just saw the movie.
Anyway, on that note, it's been a fun first show for the year. Thank you very much, guys, for chiming in, covering all this stuff. I want to thank
definitely a big shout out to Lou Rod. Thanks for all the links on.
Yes, thank you, Lou Rod, for all the movie stuff.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate that. So definitely you can check out everyone's channel. Go ahead and check out Mr. Juan Bagnell at Somegadgetguy.com, as well as his YouTube channel. You can check him out, subscribe to the channel on YouTube, and also follow him on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Google+. Where else can we search for you?
I'm on Sue.co. That's pretty cool.
What is that?
Sue? It's the social network that pays you for being on the social network.
Oh, wow. We must be making tons of cash there.
I have made 12 cents. It's amazing.
No one pays me for my social network.
Yeah, well, I mean, considering that Facebook makes all of that money off of you on advertising, I've made 12 cents off of Sue. So that's 12 cents more than I've ever made on Facebook.
Okay, all right. And you can check out Mr. Warren Bowman at BWone.com. You can check him out at BWone.com. That is his website. Also follow him on Twitter, YouTube. It's BWone.com right there on the handle. And follow him on Instagram. If you can find him on Instagram.
I'm myself on Instagram until Instagram wants to decide to allow people to make business pages and have multiple accounts within the damn Instagram app.
He's still fighting that one, but you can follow him, and that's his handle over there. And check out Mr. Sam, aka Black Iron Man, part of the Booredatwork crew. Check him out on Booredatwork, of course, where his videos would be. And you can follow him on Twitter. That is his Twitter handle there, BlackIron_man. He's going to be tweeting out some really interesting stuff. I just made that up completely.
Yeah, I don't know what interesting stuff I tweet.
And definitely check us out at Booredatwork.com. Thunder, my Twitter, YouTube, Instagram handles are all Booredatwork. So thank you very much, guys, for chiming in, and thank you for watching. Stay tuned. Next week we'll have another show for you, same time, 11:30. And this is Thunder E saying thank you, and always enjoy your entertainment. Bam.
Oh yeah.